You may remember when Jacob Rees-Mogg was put in charge as the business minister, um, back before he was very quickly, well, should we say, summarily let go very quickly. um, his One of his big Brexit benefits was to bring back, of course, imperial measurements. This would be bringing back things in pounds and ounces. And as we said back at that time, doing this would be pointless. It would be counterproductive. It would be everyone who measures everything now in the metric system anyway would probably have to convert. It would be a real pain for everyone to convert. It would mean products having to be completely relabeled. Not only that, in the imperial measurements, but also in metric as well. If you are trading with Europe, you also have the continuing problems as well that metric is a lot more accurate than imperial measurements. Uh, just this entire idea of switching to imperial measurements is pointless. It's pure nostalgia bait, and yet a lot of these Brexiteers seem absolutely insistent that we should go back to this. It would be pointless. Currently, there are, I think, 4 countries in the world, just 4, that actually use imperial measurements. I think it's America, and then I think it's like 4 of the like really small, tiny countries, and that's it. Everywhere else in the world has switched on. They've moved on to the metric system. But this is just this prize that a lot of these Brexiteers seem to be obsessed with of switching back to imperial measurements. And unfortunately, it seems that they want to try and revive this push. So we could once again be seeing this whole thing come back into the limelight again. So we'll see what happens this time with it, but we'll see. But anyway, before we go diving into this ridiculous revival, which is a revival no one wants to see, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee. We can, well, buy me coffee. There is the one-off donation link called the YouTube thank you button as well. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on into this. So this comes from Politics Home. The title of "The Post-Brexit Push for Imperial Measurements Could Be Revived." Good Lord, no. No, no, no. Why on earth? Why on earth would you want to bring this back? So, ministers are considering reviving the plans to bring back imperial measurements as part of the legislative agenda to be set out in the King's Speech this autumn. The campaign to restore the units of weight and measures like pounds and ounces in the UK is popular with many fervently pro-Brexit Conservative MPs. Last year's former Prime Minister Boris Johnson launched a government consultation over giving businesses and consumers greater freedom to buy and sell products in imperial rather than metric units, which have long been a standard in the UK in line with the European Union rules. While Johnson, along with the vocal Brexiteers, including Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was enthusiastic about the change, in the 2022 consultation by the now defunct, and again, it's worth reminding people that this department technically no longer exists, the now defunct Department for Business, Energy, Industrial Strategy, and again, for the fact, the entire idea that you would put Jacob Rees-Mogg in charge of the Department for Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy in charge of the UK was completely ludicrous. And like I say, put it this way, thank God he wasn't in charge for too long, because who knows what other crazy, madcap, libertarian, free market fundamentalist ideas he would have come up with. So the consultation found that businesses and people preferred metric units like grams and liters. And again, for the business case for this is just not there. Why on earth would you want to go back? This idea that you could go back to that is completely pointless because no business wants to do it. Even people who respond to this saying, no, we prefer metric, thank you. Because even as a basic case, metric is more an accurate case of measurement than pounds and ounces. Well, the imperial measurement. It's far, far, far more accurate, which is good for consumers. So, a Conservative Party source has said that the political disruption of 2022, which saw the two changes of the government, was another reason why the reform of weights and measures has stalled. They said it got rather lost in all the chaos, and it was a medium-level priority, they told Politics Home. Kimi Badenoch, the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, has since decided not to scrap the EU regulatory regulation dictating the labelling and measurements as part of plans to do away with some of Brussels' laws by the end of the year. But Politics Home understands that the government is now looking at ways of creating greater choice. And again, here's the thing. Whenever these free market fundamentalists always say this of we're just giving consumers greater choice, they're rarely not. It's just the buzzword to give the illusion that you've got more choice. But that's not the case, because here's the thing: from a simple business perspective, if the government now said, oh, well, now you can have things in imperial measurements as well. Well, now you've got to label that as well, which costs you more to label your products. This is why businesses did not want to do this. This is why they did not want it, and why, again, they will probably say, we do not want to do this. Will the Conservatives listen? Will these Brexiteers, free market fundamentalists listen? I very much doubt it, but these are the people who enthusiastically say every single time that, oh, businesses want to get rid of all this regulation. They want to switch back to imperial measurements. Yet, in this case, as as very much always, when it comes to businesses saying that they don't want to get rid of regulations, that they don't want to change to imperial measurements, suddenly they're not interested in listening to businesses. But we'll see what happens if this comes to pass. So anyway, back to it. So the government is now looking at ways of creating greater choice for businesses and consumers when it comes to units of measurement, as it puts together its legislative agenda for the run-up into the next general election, which will be announced in the King's Speech in the autumn. The government does not comment on what will be in its next legislative agenda. The plan to bring back imperial units in its original form was aimed to give businesses the choice to sell their products in imperial units and imperial units which are smaller in reference to the metric equivalent or in metric. Ministers have stressed at the time that this was about providing choice of imperial units, not making them compulsory. So even then, it's pointless because it said it there. Imperial units are smaller when you compare it to the metric equivalent. And again, the metric equivalent is a lot more accurate when it comes to measuring. So this whole choice is it's the most pointless change a government could ever try to do. It would be purely pointless, and no businesses are going to go along with it. They're just going to keep on doing metric. But of course, the problem then comes that is it going to be compulsory or is it not going to be compulsory? Because that could in itself cause a lot of chaos. So, a move by the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to equivalate the status of imperial units would likely be welcomed by the staunch Leavers on the Tory backbenchers, many of whom have expressed frustration with the government's approach to the post-Brexit issues like the Windsor Framework or the Northern Ireland, and the question of EU laws still in the UK statute book. So that's why it's probably, should we say, being done to try and appease them. Badnoch's recent decision to slow down the process of scrapping EU laws contained with the retained EU law bill has irked the ardent Brexiteers who have complained that ministers are failing to seize what they perceive as the opportunities of Brexit. But since he argued that doing so was better for businesses and would give officials more time to carry out the work more carefully. So there you have it. Will this once again come to pass? Will we see this re-enter Parliament? I hope not. To be honest, because it's just one of those pieces of just this is just pure time wastery. Um, it really is. There is no point bringing back imperial measurements. Um, People are going to continue using metric. So are businesses. And to be honest, at the end of the day, it could cause a lot of issues when all of a sudden you've got someone thinking that they bought this in imperial measurements when um, maybe they were, selling it in metric, or maybe they claim they were, selling it in metric. There's a ton of issues this is going to bring up, a ton of issues, um, and it's only being done to appease a very minority few pro-Brexit MPs that Rishi Sunak desperately needs to try and get on his side, because certainly he's going to have to try and do something to show that he's on track, and that this is why people should vote Conservative. So he's going to try and, I think, as we said, reach a point of desperation. And I worry that in his desperation, certainly he's going to do things like offer a referendum on the European Court of Human Rights, which is going to not go very well, unfortunately, because again, just like the EU, people really don't understand they don't even understand more what that actually does for them. But there you go. So yeah, to be honest, I expect certainly in the coming King's Speech for there to be a lot of very, very panicky policy decisions, probably some stuff that isn't even going to be able to get passed within the time that they've got left. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when it comes to the King's Speech. But yeah, like I say, the Tory party is already panicking. They're already splitting again with the new Conservatives. Yeah, this isn't good. This is just so ridiculous. But this is how desperate they're getting. But there you go. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.